actually play a red in the workshop sometime for role
Nice.
playing.
Yeah.
So that comes with all this work. And you know that what really drives me, Reverend Carol, is the quote from Rumi, I believe. Between ideas of right and wrong, there's a field, and I'll meet you there. And I have opened many of our workshops with that quote, and I tell them that's what I adopt for myself. So when you see me and whatever you get, it has to reflect that mantra that I hold for myself. I try to be that field and meet people there. I'm not trying to change. I'm not offering requirements to get to the field, because I just believe if you get to the field, there will be a greater solution.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited about today's episode. It's something that I've been trying to bring on the air for some time. But first, I just want to remind you that this podcast is a podcast of hope, inspiration, and awakening. And we live in a very divisive world. And today we're going to be talking about how can we bring some of these polarities together and reach across the aisle and learn how to listen and speak to each other and accept each other for who we are and maybe co-create from a completely different space. So we're talking about Braver Angels today, which is leading the nation's largest cross-partisan volunteer-led movement to bridge the partisan divide and strengthen our democratic republic. Today, my guest is David Joseph. He joined Braver Angels in early 2020 during COVID, and he became a state coordinator from 2022 until July 2025. He continues to be active as a moderator and part of the leadership team. And it took a while to find you
Yes.
and find somebody who'd be willing to come in and talk to me about it. I have heard of Braver Angels, and as I said in the opening, I'm so saddened by the political divide. And I grew up in a time when my parents could hold one political view and they could have a cocktail party with their friends who held another political view, and they would talk and they would still be friends and not shout or not cut each other off. So this is what I'm really excited about, learning more about Braver Angels. So I think it might be good if you just started off by telling people who've never heard of this program, this movement, what it is and why it's here.
Sure, sure. So, Braver Angels is a national organization across 50 states, and was formed on the heels of the 2016 presidential elections. And the expressed intention was to depolarize America. And by that, right around that time, right up, if you recall, during that, it wasn't just the election, it was the election cycle where you started seeing things really tilt, the politics, the way the Democrats and Republicans talk to one another, referring to each other, the name calling, and all the divisiveness. And so it had already started taking on a toll on its own. And so Brave Angels was formed to try to get people to come together and have conversations about issues that affect all of us as Americans. So the first group had, I believe it was a weekend workshop they had in Lebanon, Ohio, and they brought in people that voted for President Trump at the time and people that voted for Hillary Clinton, and you got them all in a room. And amazingly, when the session was over, we found that there were individuals still didn't change their core positions very much, but they viewed the other side with a significant improvement in humanity. And some of them, to my knowledge, I don't know all of them, or any of them for that matter, but they were still close to this day. And some I do know were very active and still are very active in Brave Angels today. So that's kind of how it got it started. And there's membership in each state. So I'm in Michigan. So I joined when on the heels of COVID, which was another very divisive situation that most of us felt shouldn't have been. It should have been just what's best for Americans, what's best for the globe at that matter. But there was a lot of divisiveness, and that's what really prompted me to kind of get involved. And so I've been in it ever since. And incidentally, Reverend Carol, I've been a Unity student for 30 years in Detroit. So this just falls in line. This just resonates with truth principles to me. I,
Exactly.
I don't I don't I don't know how to do anything else. It's just the very nature to draw oneness. So maybe that's why it resonates with me too.
Well, I love that because I was gonna just about to make the spiritual connection because it's like it can be looked at as a political thing, but no, this is really about returning to the truth that we each have a divine spark. We each are created in image and likeness. We can all live in love and connect, and we can hold different views. We don't have to convince other people of we're right and we're wrong and they're wrong, and we don't have to change our views, although we might. But something happens when you connect at the heart and you see people and not as this other side. And to me, that's magical and that's divine. And that's the most spiritual thing that we could be doing on the planet right now. I'm delighted to hear that you're a Unity student.
Yes, yes. For 30 years and 30 years and counting.
Wow.
Been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. Well, let's go back a little bit to that. How did you get involved in Unity 30 years ago?
Uh Boy meets girl, girl goes to church, the boy wants to see more of the girl, so boy goes to church. And boy went to church and thought I'd fall in love with her and fell in love with Eric Butterworth.
Oh,
And
my.
she ended up leaving the church for a while for totally unrelated issues. But that I mean that's it in a nutshell. I could give a real nice
I
warm
like that.
fuzzy, but that's just to the chase.
I like that. I was gonna ask, is girl still with the church? Um,
No,
yeah, Eric Butterworth is an amazing person, and his writings are so transformational. And I just I discover the power within. That's the one book I will hand people. You want to know,
yep,
you want to learn
yep.
something new about God and truth, and here you go. Take a look at this. Uh,
Discover
so
the power within.
yeah, yep.
Spiritual economics.
Yep.
Yeah, I can go on.
Yeah, I've
That's
I taught classes in all of those, and they're wonderful. So, well, that's such a delight. I didn't know that about you. So it does make sense that you would really be drawn to this work. I find I saw during COVID what was happening with people like not being invited to Thanksgiving. And I wanted to have this talk with you now because I want to put this out right before Thanksgiving because I think it will inspire people to, or I hope it will inspire people to consider maybe you can't have these conversations right now because you need some guidance that Braver Angels can help you with. But to not like cut people off. That's what I saw during COVID. People being left out and not being invited to Thanksgiving. And we see this also around the Thanksgiving table. Either you get into these horrible political arguments or you avoid the topics entirely so that we can't we can dance but we can't get too close. Okay, nope, politics, nope, we're going to stop talking about that. So I just have this vision for a world where we can all speak our truth, our mind, our hearts, and be heard and be able to listen to others and and then connect at the heart in that way. And it seems to me that Braver Angels, whether it's written down that that's your goal or that's your purpose, it seems to me that that's what you guys are all about.
we actually have a training called Family and Politics,
Okay.
where we talk about that when families meet at the during the holidays like this time of year, and we talk about how to manage, and it's broken down where you have the different you typically have stereotypical, this is the agitator, this is the peacemaker, and we all know it in our families, and it just talks about the skills that we use to try to defuse, but still maintain the space to have conversations. So we have a class on that, and yes, that is a big deal. People oftentimes ask about that. I can remember this time last year, we were coming off a presidential election, and we had a workshop at a library, and we had an icebreaker to just ask people where they were on the heels of the election. And the division was palpable. You had some people that were elated in the results, but really making an effort to be respectful and not gloat. And you had people on the other side who were terribly disappointed and angry, but they were really trying their best to not let it spill over. So you had two people, different opposite sides, but still trying to maintain the humanity in the workshop. And so when we were sharing, one person did say that she had actually canceled Thanksgiving at her house because she had a couple of relatives that voted for President Trump and did not vote for Kamala Harris. And so she canceled Thanksgiving dinner. And we sat and listened to her and let her talk, which is what we do. We try to model it. We allow them to speak. We listen. We acknowledge. We pivot. And then we offer our perspective. That's what we call our LAP skills, LAPP. So she was able to be heard not just by us as moderators, but by people that had a different opposite view. So that's it's more common than people may think. So you're spot on.
Yeah, I'm curious, do you know if she decided to have her Thanksgiving dinner after that or not?
She did not.
Okay, alright. Yeah, and
She
I think
seemed
that's a lost
resolute, and it was
opportunity.
still raw.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
still raw.
yeah.
It was still raw. And matter of fact, Reverend Carol, one thing when I started looking at your podcast and stuff, when I saw you did a little snippet right after the Charlie Kirk assassination, just really expressing yourself. And that's kind of what we do. You were just expressing how you felt about the matter, and we typically have workshops and sessions where we allow people to do that. And as moderators, our role is just to make sure the conversation continues, that we're not trying to stop the flow, but we step in, we have rules of engagement, um, to how we're able to communicate, where we let the other person talk and we respect, we're not disparaging, and it's our job to uphold it. But we rarely have to step in. We rarely have to step in. I think, and people that sign up for these things, I think they're truly interested in going another way anyway.
Yeah,
People
otherwise they
that
wouldn't
want to
be
stay
there.
polarized, they don't come to these workshops.
Yeah,
So
yeah, so if someone's heart is hurting a little bit, or they know that something isn't right within them, or they feel disconnected, or they don't like the disconnection that they're causing, that they would come to a workshop like this. Do you guys set up, like, ground rules from the beginning?
for the workshops,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we have ground rules before we start every workshop, and we put them up on the presentation, and we get everybody to nod or raise their hand to agree to it. So we do that, and it's been sometimes it's a training. I can remember one. I don't well in Michigan. I'm sure everyone remembers. It was kind of national news. The shooting at Oxford High School with the young man, and think there were four teens that were killed, and both of his parents were convicted also in that situation. We decided to have a common ground workshop, and we thought it was going to be gun control, but just in the power and the spirit of collaboration, people came together. This was less than 6 months from the shooting. So it was still very visceral to people. and we ended up changing the title to firearm safety, just from the back and forth. But that was, we've had workshops where you don't get more emotional charge than that. So that was one too. But the same rules apply. To honor and respect everyone, we listen. We're not listening to make our point. We're listening to allow them to be heard. And we reserve the right to enforce that. And whether it's on a Zoom such as this, we have Zoom workshops, and in person. So yeah, every workshop.
Yeah, I would think in person would be I mean, I'm sh we do Zoom for all sorts of reasons, but all in person, there's something about the energy of a person and being close to a person to be really able to feel and discern what's going on there. I would think those would be really powerful.
Yes.
Can you go back to this LAP? It's LAPP. Listen is A
Acknowledge,
acknowledge, okay, and then what's P?
pivot,
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 okay.
and perspective.
Okay,
Your
s
perspective.
okay, so listen's pretty obvious. Listen to the person, and is it, like, acknowledge that you have heard them or that they acknowledge that they've been heard?
Yeah, so we'll say for instance, so if I recall your podcast that I watched, and you were very disturbed by people that seemed to be reveling and celebrating the assassination of a human being, and whether you agree with the person's politics or not. So let's say that was, so you if you were just talking to me playing that podcast back, I would listen to you, and then I would acknowledge, which I actually did. I said, I hear you. Um, and I feel the same way. So that's the acknowledge. If you're saying it to a group of people, we're acknowledging your position. Everyone has a right to their feedback. You're coming authentically from the heart, telling your position. So our role is to say, "Hey, we hear you. I understand, and it sounds like it really hits you deep." And as a minister, I wouldn't expect anything else for you to really hit deep. I know a lot of people that felt that way. And then we pivot and say, "Well, Reverend Carroll, I have some ideas about that entire situation too." And then I would go into whatever my perspective was,
Okay.
and coming with the same energy so that you would hear me as well.
Okay,
So
then
so
it
the
cycles again.
pit the
I listen
yeah,
and
yeah,
acknowledge. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So
Okay.
my pivot is saying I have some I have a perspective on that too. I have some ideas that's signaling to you that now I'm going from the listener to I want to offer a viewpoint to you. Because oftentimes, sometimes when you're in that place and you're expressing your opinion, and sometimes it's emotional and people are angry, you really have to kind of let that breathe and give the energy before you start offering a viewpoint, because you'll feel like they haven't been heard.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Uh, so you acknowledge is to say I heard you, and it's not by accident or irony that one of the founders of Brave Angels is a marriage counselor, because it
Okay.
sounds kind of, so there's a lot of those things, like, and we found that when you hear people, you allow them to be heard. And when you think about it, going back into the election and the polarization, these divisions have been brewing for years. But oftentimes you get one group of people who don't feel that they're heard. And they get louder and they get louder. And then finally someone comes along that gives voice to their discontent and their struggle. And then it becomes a movement or whatever you want to call it. And then it kind of takes on a life of its own. And a lot of that at the root is from not people that are disaffected and not been heard.
Mhm.
And so we try to make a point, even in our meetings, when there's someone, and you can tell if you're in a meeting now with your staff, and someone doesn't quite agree. I'll say, well, wait, I don't feel like you really with this, you know.
Uh,
And be like, nope, let's stop. Tell me what's going on.
yeah.
What's the issue? And then you flesh it out because then they're being heard. Because if you don't, and you feel like they're just being shut down, then they'll start to go dark. They'll start to go underground
Yes, and it's like
until
this
there's something to bring them up.
to erupt. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the human condition really is that we all want to be seen and we all want to be heard and
Mhm.
acknowledged as human beings. I think one of the things that is happening in our world is that people are some people are strong in their views because they were raised a certain way. Some people are strong in their views, their political views, because something really calls to them personally, or they are caring about this particular group or this particular issue. And then a lot of what's happened, I think, in the last decade or so is we have different groups getting different amounts of different information, different, not just quality of
Yes.
information, but like completely different
Yes.
information. So people over here
Yes.
have a view on this issue because this is all they hear, and people over here have a completely opposite view because they're hearing something completely different. Now, to me, I think the whole thing is contrived. I think there's some there's some powers that shouldn't be there that want us to be at each other's throats. But do you find that in these workshops that people are really just dealing with different data or whole different, like they're in a silo?
I tell you, the greatest thing is to get people in the room who come in over here, these different views. And after you sit in the room and you start talking and sharing information, the same set of notes, and you have an agreement on what's good, what's inbounds or out, you'd be surprised the level of agreement that we get from people in these meetings. When you're able to get into a safe environment and block out all the noise,
Yeah.
because that is one of the main things, and I know people blame social media. I don't want to blame because I think we're all responsible for what we take in, but not to say there aren't some non-productive actors, but people, they listen to what they gravitate to what's ever around them. We have one of our members who lives in Grand Rapids, and when we have virtual meetings once a month, virtual meetups, and a couple of times he's come in and he's taught he's did a presentation on communication, and he'll take an article and put it up and have us read it and say, okay, who do you think that came from? And he teaches about how to look for the words, listen to what words, and we send out different things about different sources of information for people. But that's a big thing. That's a question. Where do you go to get your news? And we try to provide resources, but again, it's up to each individual to go out and seek their own.
Yeah, well, I find so much of the information in the world has a bite to it. Like, I know, like, let's just say there's something that's really important to me that I want to share with somebody who feels differently than I. I'm reading this article. I'm like, oh, this is something I could share. And then I'm like, no, I can't because they're doing name calling now. They're, there's this really interesting information, but now they're minimizing their argument by reducing it to making the other side look bad. And it's like, I can't share that. Why do we do that? There's so much of that going on now. It used to be there was a long time ago. I don't know how old you are, but the news was more data. But now there's so much that there's this little way to bite it, and everybody has the little names for the liberals and the conservatives, their little names, and just take all that out. Do you find though that in these workshops or in these sessions that people are like sharing information and it's like, oh my gosh, I've never heard that, like uh, the information I have is this information. Now I never heard that perspective before. Do you find that happens in your workshops?
Yeah, we share links, we share workshops. Sometimes some people share books. Um, that happens a lot. Not that that gets to, I think what comes from that is we realize we don't all get our news from the same source. I don't know that anyone goes and adopts this person's new link just because they brought it, but it does reinforce the fact that people get their news from different sources, and you have to be careful. And I know for me and us in the leadership, we try to make sure we are well rounded in our news sources, not just in the type, but in the format. So I do podcasts. I subscribe to newsletters. There's certain programs that I'll watch, but and I don't know. Do you use AI? Do you use Chat GTP or any one of those for
I
anything?
really haven't. I've used AI to kinda help with the editing platform on the podcast, and I've used, like, AI Assist when I'm doing, like, a Google search, but I have not used ChatGPT or, Grok or any of the AIs myself.
I tell you, if you can remember a couple of months ago when Israel started bombing Iran,
Okay.
and then the United States dropped that mother of all bombs to try to destroy their nuclear
Yeah,
capability,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, I had a conversation with Gemini. That's Google's version of ChatGTP,
Okay.
and we had a lengthy discussion, but I felt like I was getting fact based assumptions because I was like, wow, Gemini, what, if you follow game theory, I'm saying, okay, if we look at this through the lens of game theory, what is Iran's options here? What are Israel's options? And it was just spit them out. And I was like, wow, but why would they do that? You feel like you're having this conversation where I'm objectively asking. And what happens is they give me the answers. He pulls all this research. And I even asked, like, one instance, like, wow, do you think China or somebody would get involved? And then they came back, nope, because this, and they have statistics and there's just all this information. And I just felt like I in that conversation, I was able to learn a lot and help me shape my perspective. And so again, me being the true student, I get all of that, and then I go within and put what is the true principle around this. And then when I have conversations with people, I feel informed and I feel grounded because I think I can't go into a conversation without those two, being informed and grounded. And so we try to teach that through the lab skills. And we have informal meetups like at Panera Bread where we have people we meet up. We've had several workshops. We had a debate recently. It was called a Coliseum debate, and we brought people in. We brought in a moderator and all of that. So there's a lot of different ways to communicate with people, and I just say I think if we could shut the noise and get more people in a room,
Yes.
it would be transformative.
Yes, I agree with you, and I think, you mentioned social media. It's not like social media is an evil thing, but when people can't see another person and if they don't have, any sense of there being another human out there, it's just so easy to be cruel or to be mean, to call names and
Yeah,
it's just so easy, and that
yeah,
same person, if they face that person, probably wouldn't do that. And so it's something
yeah,
like something in our shadow coming up that, like you were talking about before, when we kinda we stuff things down and we don't express ourselves, and it comes out, and I think social media provides that avenue for people to just, vomit over everybody, but it's not constructive.
everything.
Yeah, it's not constructive.
Right,
So you guys are getting
right.
people together in workshops and in also more casual settings, and I looked at your workshops, it seemed like, they were on, like, depolarizing, finding common ground, families in politics, and skills for disagreeing better. Those were the 4 that I found. How powerful is all that? You mentioned debate. I think I think people actually watching real debates, like 2 people having completely different views respectfully, not like the presidential debate, but I mean like a real debate where you're not like calling
That's
names and
not debate.
no, it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not. I'm talking like a real debate where, you have 2 minutes and then you have a counterpoint and 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 you shake hands and it's really just allowing then everybody who's listening to use their own discernment, one of God's gifts, one of the 12 powers, to bring that into their own worldview and decide how they want to integrate it. And I think that a real debate gives people choice. It gives people the opportunity to listen, to hear two sides, and then to use discernment and choose, or just sit with it. And we do so little of that in our society. So I love that that's one of the things that you guys are doing.
Yeah,
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 go ahead.
yeah. It starts with depolarizing within, right? And again, going back to our truth teachings, change starts within first. You can't change anybody and stay the same. We know the universe doesn't work that way. And so I always liken depolarizing within to that search, that first that what is unity class, for lack of a better word, where you go in and you try to determine where you're polarized, your blind spots, because we all have them, stereotypes, implicit bias, whatever words we want to use. We all have we all have it. There are people that just get on our nerves on certain situations when they come and talk, and we have to work to really recognize that, to know how to manage it. So that's the starter, and then we get into like skills after you've understood where you're coming from, how you can go out and try to learn and help someone else. So it starts from within and it works out.
Ultimately, I'm really curious, do you see in the events and the workshops that you all hold, do you see people, actually making friends?
Yeah, yeah. I don't, no, I haven't seen anyone like leave out our workshops two by two, but there have been follow up friendships to this day where people have come together and they have done workshops together. They have agreed to do things together. That's definitely something that happens. And we it's like we try to light the match to foster that reaching across the aisle, across the divide, and then we support people in other ways if that's what they want to do. So we do see that, and again, as we go forward, we're looking to do more of that, and now trying to reach our lawmakers at a deeper level as well. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do that, and
I don't think the goal is necessarily to create buddies, but I know
right,
that the goal is to be able to listen and to have skills and because
yeah,
the more reaching across the aisle that happens, and that's why I think Thanksgiving dinner is so important. I really do. I interviewed a guest not long ago, and she talked about kind of the laws of love. And one of them was that everybody belongs. And so everybody needs to be invited to the table, even the estranged son, even the drug addict, and unless it's abusive situation. And what she means by that, not everybody has to come, but to really integrate ourselves as individuals and to be able to be in relationship with others, the severed relationships that we have in our own families impact our ability to love. And so it's really important to find ways to reach across the aisle and so that we can at least be together in a loving way, whether we agree or disagree or find common ground or not, but that we at least try. Because I think the energy that happens when that happens, like when we come together, even though there's tension and even though we have disagreement, I think something really happens in the whole energy field of the collective consciousness. That's why I think this work is so important.
Sounds like you've had experience with this on some family gatherings, huh?
Well, we do have we don't have the black sheep in my own family. We don't have that, but we do have different views, and we tend to skirt the issues, like kind of like, oh, getting close, move off,
Right,
getting close, move
right,
off.
right.
But that's not what I want. I don't want
Mhm,
that. I don't want to not be
mhm.
able to have conversations, I want to be able to be at a table together and, do this, listen and acknowledge and then listen, acknowledge and pivot and share your perspective. And then come
Mhm.
away with a, okay, I understand you, you understand me. Because I think what happens if you don't do that, you just kind of feel muffled, right? You feel like, you
Right,
feel disempowered. Yeah.
right.
So I really talk in the ideal. I'm not sure I've got my family where I want it to be.
We all working on it. We're all working on it. I think my family is that there's things we just don't talk about.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and then the other half we kind of monolithic to a point. I'm usually the centrist, but that's
yeah.
what I am. We have red and blue, but I always identify as purple.
Yeah, I love that.
Um,
Yeah, I love that. You
yeah,
go
I,
play in
I
that camp and play in
identify.
that camp.
I actually play a red in the workshop sometime for role
Nice.
playing.
Yeah.
So that comes with all this work, and that what really drives me, Reverend Carroll, is the quote from Rumi, I believe. Between ideas of right and wrong, there's a field, and I'll
Mhm.
meet you there.
Mm.
And I have opened many of our workshops with that quote, and I tell them that's what I adopt for myself. So when you see me and whatever you get, it has to reflect that mantra that I hold for myself. I try to be that field and meet people there. I'm not trying to change. I'm not offering requirements to get to the field because I just believe if you get to the field, there will be a greater solution.
Yeah,
I really believe
I
that.
do too. I do too. I've mentioned this many, many times in my ministry. I think when you hold polar opposites and you just hold them, idea A and idea B, completely different ideas and they're opposite. When you hold the tension of those opposites, usually something appears that transcends them both. That's a better solution than this and A
Yeah.
or B. And what we just have to be able to hold that and be with each other and then find, oh my gosh, maybe something's going to come out of this that almost like magical. Something's going to come out of this that's better than what I thought and better than what you thought. Love
Think
the
of all the challenges that are in front of us right now.
yeah, yeah,
Just think of all of it as far as the budget and people not having food, and then you see natural disasters. We've been at my church doing collecting food and products to send to Jamaica. So that you have the natural disasters, then invariably someone will bring up climate change. But just think of all the different challenges we have in this country, from healthcare costs, gun violence, and we continue to operate down a path that one party, one side has all the right answers. And I think most people in the room that is seeking that higher solution and seeking to maintain humanity knows that that's not the case. And so the challenge, how do we give voice to the people in the room or in the field? That's a lot of work we spend on that.
yeah, yeah, and this attachment that we have to blue and red and Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, but this attachment, it's an identity. It's like, in Unity, we call that like the personality. It's not the
Mhm.
individual divine
Right, right.
self that we
It's
think we're this
personality. You're
thing.
right.
We think we're this
Right.
thing, and we will all, almost die for it. And I mentioned that in my Charlie Kirk video. It's like, can we just lay down these sides for a moment and just look at the humanity of everything? And I think that's what we're being, called. Our souls are called to do that. And I think that's what everybody at that soul level wants to do. But so much of our world is just, drawing us into the fight.
Yes.
And I think on the spiritual path, it's really our job to say, thank you, but no, I don't need to be drawn into the drama of this fight. And I really want to pursue solutions. I want to pursue the truth. I want to pursue humanity. And, what if
Right.
we all did that? It'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do.
I
I
love
really
that.
believe there's a critical mass that they're tired of all this. They're really exasperated,
I agree too.
but they don't necessarily have a collective voice against those that continue to be polarized. You just look at where we are today. There was a vote in the House about the Epstein files, and I think it was 434 to 1. How often do you have the House of Representatives with a unanimous vote?
I've never, I don't know. I don't think
And
I've
you
ever
even
seen that.
had one that voted no. And I'm sure there's some reason
Yeah.
for it, but you think about it, that shows it's possible.
Yeah, there are things that we can all agree to. That's true. There are things that we can
It's
all agree
possible
to. It is possible. Yeah, it is
if
possible.
there's a will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, can you tell me what your role was as what a state coordinator? So, what does a moderator do, and what does a state coordinator do within
Well,
Braver Angels?
yeah. So a coordinator was basically working to support individuals in the state of Michigan that found, like, someone finds our work, the website. Hey, I want to know more about Braver Angels. I live in Michigan. Can you help me? Okay, well, here's David's number. And then I, talk about the workshops to them. And then, okay, if you have some other individuals and you want to form like an alliance or a chapter, then we facilitate that process. If you just want a workshop, then we would coordinate. I would find out who's available to do the workshop, and we would schedule that and go out. So that's kind of at a stripped down level what the coordinator does. Moderators, we all receive training to be moderators, and basically we do moderations for the workshops. So when we have our workshops, there's the material has been designed by the national organization. So we don't come in willy-nilly. We have a slide deck that has been approved by the national board. And okay, skills for bridging the divide, it has a slide deck. Depolarizing within, it has a slide deck. So we take that. Not only does it have the material, the flow of the workshop. This is the agenda. This is the time frame. So we're all trained on that, and then we go out and conduct workshops, and we facilitate them. They can be Zoom, they could be in person, it could be hybrid. Sometimes we'll do a workshop. I may be here, and a group may be at the church, all sitting around the table. So a hybrid workshop. So that's what a moderator does. So both of those are trained positions. Once you get trained, you get certified, then you can go and do workshops.
Okay. Okay. And I don't know if I'm going to ask you this question. I don't know if you can share an answer or not, but eh, are there any is there any story that sticks out in your mind that was some sort of amazing breakthrough or something that happened with people in one of your workshops? Is there anything that you could share that looked like it might have been like nothing's going to work and then something works, or some amazing breakthrough? Is there any story that you could share?
That's a good question. When we did I'll talk about the firearm safety that was precipitated by the shooting at Oxford. So we originally had just lay people come in. There were pro gun and pro gun control, for lack of a better word. And when you start off, it's the same arguments, right? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Why does a person need 2,000 guns? And so but as we begin to shift into firearm safety, we found that there was points of agreement. We found that we can say, okay, I can accept the need for safety if you feel your life is threatened, or for safety needing to have a gun. I can see that you love to hunt. I'm not a hunter, but I can see that some people are gun enthusiasts. The issue comes when someone is irresponsible with the gun and we get things that happen. So the thing is, from that workshop we had a follow-up, and we invited some of the lawmakers from Oxford, and they originally did not want to come because they were sensing, I'm not stepping into that. This is going to be bad. This is going to be all these gun haters. And we started talking about legislation, and then we had a larger one, and we must have had, I don't know, 6 or 7 lawmakers that come in, and we ended with a document with points of agreement on firearm safety. And there may have been 2 issues that we just couldn't get by. And I can remember being in the workshop, and it started to get heated. And this is when I stepped into that field and said, hey, people, this is as far as we're going to get. You're not budging anymore after this. And we're not asking you to. We're asking you, can you look and see a possibility? And they said, well, I can see this, I can see that. I can't see or get into that. Okay, we're going to leave it alone. I went to the other side. We're not getting anywhere. Look at all the good that you did agree on. We're not going to get past this. And it was amazing after that how people just, they still interacted with each other. It was a little heated, but when it was over, you think people after a workshop, especially in the evening, people want to put their coats on and go. People stuck around, and they were saying, when's the next meetup? When are we going to have more? And I was like, wow, what happens when you're not afraid to go there? If you go there with, my unity is flipping back. If you're going back with a consciousness of unity, and if you go from that place, you can do that. So that was one. Having the lawmakers come in for the state of Michigan legislatures. There was a representative from the Oakland County prosecutor's office who actually prosecuted that family. It wasn't the prosecutor herself, but from her office. Um, that was big to us.
I
That
can
was
feel
big to
that. I
us.
can feel that. I mean, I can
Yeah.
feel I'm feeling literally, I'm feeling I've got, like, tears
And
in
we
my eyes.
still we still connect with them. We still connect with them.
Yeah.
And my counterpart, and I'll just end it here. She went to Lansing and stopped in one of the lawmakers' offices, and she said, "Hey, I didn't want anything. I know it's a tough environment right now. I just wanted to see how you were doing." And she just gave her a hug and just like let go, just how frustrating. So the connection with lawmakers was huge. The votes don't show it, but we know that there's humanity there.
I think that's the most important thing. And I think ultimately, the world's really strange right now. Maybe it's always been strange. It just feels like it's getting stranger. But I feel like we're like in a pressure cooker or something. Like we have, we're creating the world that we're in. It's not like we're just victims of it. And I feel like we're creating such extremes because at some point our souls and our hearts are going to go, wow, our humanity matters more than all this. And I feel like we're gonna be like the who's down in Whoville that wake up on Christmas morning after the Grinch has stolen all their Christmas and hold hands around the Christmas tree and sing. And I know that's a fanciful vision, and it's probably make believe, and it's also a metaphor. But I do believe that that's possible, that humanity can come together because we just get because we are human, because we do have a heart, because we are have a divine spark. And that's certainly my hope, and it's also my vision, and I think you guys are doing the work that's like the bridge that may be making that happen.
Yeah, and it's I'll tell you, one of the things that really bothers me in this entire space, like, yeah, we got the lawmakers to come in and connect with a lot of them, is that oftentimes the things that you see them spouting and spewing in the media is not really where they are.
Right, right. It's like they're an actor, they're a play, it's a play, this is a script. Like that?
And that's what really bothers me. And I've listened to them and I'm
Yeah,
like, wow, we 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 just talked to you last week, and
yeah.
you that really bothers me. And that just shows the power and the pull of those organized political parties where you get
Oh,
that
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you
um
there. I'm thinking more about the people themselves. I think that there's so much corruption, so much coercion, so much blackmail, so much, just stuff going on that's causing people to say what they have to say, to read the script that they have to read in the higher echelons of our political system. But I'm thinking about the people. Like you guys are working with the people who can break down and go,
yes,
this is really rough for
yes,
me. And I think that's where the
yes.
real power is. The real power is. Yeah.
And we're encouraging more of the people when they come to us and when we meet at Panera Bread and we're saying, you really should reach out to your lawmaker and tell them, what you just told me. They need to hear that people are not so interested in this constant push
Yeah.
pull.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are not interested.
Yeah. We're tired
It's
of it.
it's
Yeah.
it's it may be a dirty word in your world to say work across the aisle, but to the people, they want to hear that you're trying to work for a constructive solution for everybody. And we encourage people to tell their lawmakers. I mean, no one, you don't need braver angels to tell you that. It's that's if you that's what you do. Reach out to your lawmaker and say, "Hey, I do think healthcare is important for everybody." And the idea that one party can offer a solution for everybody, I'd rather see you guys work together. You know, the budget cuts, I'd rather see you guys work together. Climate change, that's going to affect the
It's like
planet.
it's like a child wanting their parents to work together.
Yeah. 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 Back to that whole marriage
Mom,
counseling model
mom,
again,
dad,
right?
can you work together?
Can you guys work together and figure this out?
Yeah.
We understand that it won't be the way we want it to look. And matter of fact, I what I respect about my lawmakers are those that represent me is the ability to tell me how they feel and give me their real opinion, regardless of whether I agree with their vote or not. And I always try to create that in my conversations with them. You know, I'm not going to not vote for you because you turned left and I thought you should go right. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
I'm not going to vote for you. That does mean I want to know why you turned left. And I would expect you to tell me. And then after that, that's for me to deal with. So,
Yeah, well, honesty would be a big deal. Okay, David, we're coming up on our hour. I just want to make sure that is there anything else that you think would be interesting for my audience to hear about Braver Angels that we haven't covered?
We just had a new change in leadership at the national level, and we are spearheading something called courageous citizenship, where we're really like kind of what we were just talking about, where we're encouraging individuals to take the leap. If there's an issue in your neighborhood and your school board and it concerns you, call two or three of your neighbors and say, hey, let's sit down and talk about how we might build a solution here. We are really looking to do that and trying to help people, empowering them to do that, to reach out. And you see a lot of people at these town halls. I was at a town hall last week, and the conversation came up about something called ranked choice voting. I don't know if you've heard of that. A different way to do elections, where in some cities and states use it, but how we elect our officials.
You like do
We
1, 2,
go
and
through these
3? You
primaries, kind of like that. It's like you vote for your top three, and then the winner gets the number one votes, and then the number two kind of moves to the next spot. Then you have a runoff with those two, and the idea is that any candidate that gets selected has the support of at least 50%, have a majority because they ranked them one or two. So whoever that person is, they were high up on their list. That I'm very much abbreviating the whole process, but the point is when that came up, a lot of Democratic and Republican lawmakers don't really appreciate that. Well, surprise, surprise, because it could change the dynamics of elections. But there was energy in the town hall from people that wanted to know more. And then that's where we come in and say, hey, we're going to be talking about that at our Panera Bread meetup. Why don't you come up and bring your two or three people? So then you start doing that, and then I'll invite the head of Ranked Choice to come and talk about it. So you see how it kind of builds from there. So we're trying to do things like that to encourage more conscious and courageous citizenship. That's a big initiative, and you can see it on our website, braverangels.org.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Being a unity person, we're all about not being victims. And there's a huge
Right.
victimization energy and archetype out there where things are happening to me and everyone complains about the government, complains about this, complains about the school board, but does nothing. Takes no
Right.
action,
Right.
and they're wallowing
Right.
in the gossip about it, and that just creates more of that, then we're creating it with our thoughts, and rather than, flip the conversation and be in action on it, so that sounds like
Yeah.
really, really great work, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We want to give people a voice for that who may not know that they do have a voice to feel more empowered. So,
Yeah, we're such powerful people. We play so small, which
yeah.
again with unity. So back to the very beginning when I wanted to have you on because this I thought would be a good Thanksgiving message, at least inspire people to maybe not
Hmm.
this Thanksgiving. Hopefully, this Thanksgiving will be a happy Thanksgiving, and you can reach across the aisle, reach across the Thanksgiving table with your family. But at least plant seeds that there's these ways to learn skills so that we can connect. Do you have any Thanksgiving message for my group before we close?
Well, first off, get a gratitude journal, practice gratitude. That's one thing.
Yep.
The other thing is that we are in very volatile times, of course. We all know that. But nobody really has a monopoly on right or wrong. And again, back to that quote of Rumi, ideas, we have these ideas of right or wrong. So during this time of, Thanksgiving, I would just say focus on gratitude. Gratitude is, that which you appreciate appreciates. And
Yeah.
so I am grateful for people that don't think like me because sometimes ideas may not show up unless there's someone else bringing an opposing one. So if we could find ways to be grateful for differences, You know, that would be it. And watch Charlie Brown's Christmas. That sums it all up. I mean, I'm sorry, Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yeah, yeah, that's yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
and
That
then
that was
Christmas
on. I
after
watched
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
and
watched it
and
last week.
come back to the Rumi metaphor, maybe think about the Thanksgiving table as the field, you know? Maybe
Yes,
maybe the Thanksgiving
yes,
table is the field that we're going
yes.
to meet each other at. Uh,
That might be the opening prayer.
yes, yeah. I love that. That's gonna be our opening prayer. I love that. So thank you for
Okay.
sharing that metaphor. And thank you, David, for coming on and telling me about your work. And you're just doing this in
Mm,
Michigan. Is it in every state?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
It's in every state.
there we
And
go.
anyone can go to braveangels.org and you go and find find a state, find a region, and you can scroll down and you search by state. You can click on every state and you'll get representation. And we have a if you click on Michigan, you'll see our Michigan website and you can see what classes that we do, and you can sign up on our list.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Happy Thanksgiving. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.